Buddha, when you take, we have to take possibly, the best example for us as Buddhists, or our icon should be the Buddha. And the Buddha also had a problem, as you say, as a young person at the age of 29, for his renunciation. When he was going out, he saw the ailing person. He saw an aging person, and also a dead person. And these are all the because and messages of God. These are things that happen every day we see. But for him, it was a question, it was a problem, it was something to find a solution. Every one of us in our life, we have seen when we go to hospital, when we go to cancer hospital or any hospital, with COVID, there's so many people who are suffering because of it. And also in the same way, we have seen aged people, the people who went to our mothers, our grandmothers, like that. It's a process. So for us, it was not an issue, but for the Buddha, the Prince Siddhartha, it was an issue, it was a problem, and for which he has to find a solution. And then what he wanted was to find out the root cause of this. If there is rebirth, how is it possible for us to end birth? That means after death, for birth not to come. So this was an issue, that if a person is born, the aging is something, it's universal. Becoming sick is universal. Dying is also universal. And if these are universal, how is it possible? What is it? What shall we do? What is had to be done to overcome that? And that's his quest. That is quest. That was 6 years at the age of 29. It was not just 1 day or 2 days. Long quest. And there was deep meditation on the Kala and the Brahmabuddha, the two. They went to the jhanic stages, final jhanas, the 8th jhana. Or that means to that level, he developed his mind, he developed his calmness, samadhi, calmness. But from there, from that calm mind, you find the proper solution. So that is something that we as Buddhists, we have to find out. We have to think of this situation. And we have to find out the root cause of some of these things. The important thing that we have to remember is that there is no time in our life or in the history of the world that there won't be problems. Those problems are topical. And in that scenario, what has to be done, what the Buddha wanted us to do, was to strive on entirely. And when you strive on entirely, we want something, peace and calm. And it's a very interesting verses in the Dhammapada. It's in the Sukha Varga. The Buddhist, he says, or the Arahant, or a person who can even now can. We live aware, that means among those who are in the society where there is hate, we live without hate. In a society, in that society, that's what he says, Viharama Averi. That means even in the outside world, there is what you call the hatred. There is the health problems and all other that type of. It's possible for us to live without those. So that's the important aspect, is that if we develop our mind to that level, it's not necessary for us to be arahants, but if we can develop ourselves, our mind, although there is turmoil right around us, it is possible for developing our mind to that level that we can live without hatred, without mental sickness, and we can face that situation. So that is what the Buddha, or what we should do as Buddhists. It's not changing the outside world, but changes within. The changes have to be done within each one. It's the way it's mental development. And with those changes, it is possible for us to face the world, to face the situations, and not only face situation, we can keep our calm. All of us know that verse from the Mangala Sutta. Tasarupadamme chittang yas na kampati. Asomam virajam kema. So that means it's possible that the vagaries of life, we always have to face those vagaries of life. And among those, those are the Rupadhamma, the vagaries of life. There's gain, loss, gain, fame, and at that time we are criticized so many things that happen. Labha, alabha. That means we have gained something. Certain times we lose something. Labha, alabha, ayaso, yasocha. Sometimes we are praised, sometimes we are criticized. Ayaso, yasocha. Ninda prasansa, ninda prasansa, we are praised, and then prasansa, ninda, what's happening every day. We find this in the power, all of our life we have faced that. Sukhancha dukkha, sukha dukkha. So those are the vagaries of life, and at those moments it's possible for us, without being tormented by that. We have to develop our minds. Where it says, Tassa lopadame chitta yassa na kampati. That is, without our minds getting called sick with that, I would say, becoming sick. Now that's our aim should be that. Our aim in life should be to develop our mind in such a way. We strengthen, we give the inner strength, we build up our inner strength, so that we can face situations, we can face problems with calm, and will not get agitated. And if we don't do that, that means we are not getting the best of the teaching of the Buddha. So that's, and when you think of that, so if you take the problems, I like to make an analysis of the problems that we have. It's open, some of the issues, problems that come, that we encounter, they are fortuitous. We have fortuitous. So that means, it happens without any kind of plan. Unplanned problems. They are called acts of love. With the tsunami, we had the 17th year of tsunami, the weather, the cyclones, the earthquakes. Recently, Sri Lanka also, there was an earthquake. And we can't control that. We are unplanned. So not controllable, but so there are situations, even COVID, to some extent by human action, it's possible for us to control. But generally, these are outside our sphere. So these are fortuitous, unplanned. The thing is, the government or any one of us did not plan to have a thing like COVID, say, in 2019 or even 2018. So COVID-19 means in 2019, we faced this a situation of war, because something happened and it's there. Then there are certain types of problems which are internal, personal, internal problems. Each one of us have internal or personal problems. So, I would say, again, there is the non-communicable diseases. There has been even an international, WHO had an international seminar on that conference, where all the leaders conference on non-communicable diseases, which is one of the biggest killers even in Sri Lanka. Not the communicable diseases, but the non-communicable diseases. And that's, you have caused, that means each one of us, because of our lifestyle, using cigarettes, or taking liquor, overeating, all those things are controlled by us. And we, as internal personal problems are there. School failure, you fail an examination. If you have been not a good student and then we have been not, so it's something that you had to, as a school-going child, you had to do your work, but you didn't do your work, that they sit the examination, you failed that. So that's internal, that's a personal problem. So those are there. And there is also the external problems are there. Now, say at these days in Sri Lanka, we think of the rise in prices. The rise in prices, the food scarcities, noise pollution, all those things. All those things are beyond, outside, external to us. There are certain which are personal to you, and there are certain things which are external. And those, and then also there's certain issues that are both internal and external. Now, like your marriage life, there's living with your partner, how do you do that? Your social life, your marriage life, all these are both internal and external causes. So I was thinking that, if you take this in this manner, so there are these, the controllability of the problems from the point of view of the person, The important thing is that certain of those problems are within your scope. And what we should be doing is, especially the internal personal problems, those are your coping. So the problems now each, if you take 2, 4, or 5 individuals or families, although the problem is there, how they cope with that situation differs. It's not the same. Although the problem is there, the way you solve that is different. And the way you solve that particular problem or personal problem will again create more problems sometimes. So that depends on each person. So this is something that, although it is controllable, some react to situations immediately, some do not react. They know how to control themselves, and they know how to respond to situations. And all those things are internally what you have done. In the same way, there are the external things are not controllable, but the coping in those situations depends on your own inner strength and the skills that you have built. The inner strengths and skills that you have built. So it's important that although the same situation faced by different persons, how they cope with that situation depends on the skill and also the inner strength that you have developed. Now, even meditation is a skill. Meditation means that you know how to bring your mind to one-pointedness as some, and then it's something that you have to get through practice. So it's important. One thing that we have realized is that these problems and controllability depends on certain situations. All it depends on not so the situation, but actually on the person, on each person. So this is where the Buddha always says, it's not good, the Buddha cannot take you or take you to Nibbana. It's not possible. He says he is only the teacher. He can give you the guidance and he can give you the necessary support. And during the time of the Buddha, it was when it was Sariputta. He played that role very well. And he led many people towards that when the questions, problems come up. So, and then what are these? The characteristics of that. So let's discuss something of that. What hinders one's ability to control? There are certain things that hinder. Now, although, as I mentioned, although some problems are internal and it's within your reach and you control, there are certain things that are not controlled, but your coping skills are developed. But that's also depends on your own person. So what are those factors that hinders one's ability to control the situation? What are those factors? And there, one of the first things is doubt. Doubt about yourself. The lack of confidence that you have in yourself. As you know, in the Karanimetta Sutta, the first thing will say, if you want to go on this path, what's important is support, your ability, your confidence that you can do. A child should have confidence that he will pass the examination. He should be confident. If he's not confident that he can pass the examination, he has failed there itself. It's confidence that takes you through. So if you doubt your own confidence, if you have doubts about something, it's very difficult to proceed. So if you develop your confidence, your self-confidence is extremely important. I can do that. I'm able to do that. It's not something that is beyond me. If that is so, some would say, yes, Nibbana is beyond. Why should we do this? Why should we do all these things? We still feel almost that we have to, we can. And that's what the Buddha showed us. The Sangha, which says Sangha Saranagacha, is not what the Buddha who got enlightened. The Sangha, all that, they followed that path and they reached that path. And that's one of the purposes, in the way that we have this type of discussion, the servants of the Buddha, is for us to understand the Dhamma. It's called the Pariyattisasana. Folks, that type, it's important for us when we guide ourselves. Although, some say that Patipatti is important, more important than Pariyatti. Patipatti is practice. No, but even the practice, we should know how to be guided. If you are misguided, you go on the wrong path. So it's important that your study of the Dhamma is also important. And that takes off your doubt, your capacity, your own capacity. You should be able to find out. And it's not for me to say, for the Buddha it's easy. Why he knows, he has Parichitta Vichara, he knows others' mind and everything. But we, during this time, there will be few may have it, but we are with ourselves. Each person can think of and your own strengths and weaknesses. So that's the lack of confidence. And then another thing that really hinders is hostility. Your attitude, the hostile attitude. Sometimes, we develop hostile attitude. Your hostile attitude to society, hostile attitude to your partner, hostile attitude to the government, hostile attitude. So when you have that hostile attitude, we don't see the real problem as the real problem. We are always guided. We have a hostile mentality. Hostility is something that really you have that type of attitude. If you have, it's something that will hinder your progress. Hostile attitude. The another thing is your laziness. You're lazy. For a school child, or not even a school child, anybody can say, oh, this is not the time for me to do it. I should sleep or think. You're mentally, you're lazy, and you're physically also lazy. Something you have to do, but I will do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. You have heard that procrastination, thief of time. You always procrastinate, give it up, give it up. But that laziness is something that each one, that's something that you have control. If you are lazy, if you don't want to go on the path, then you can't bring about the changes that you want. You can't cope with the situation. And also, if your mind is always, not able to concentrate, there are people now, it's very difficult, the restlessness of the mind. The mind is very restless. You see certain children, they're extremely restless. And the restlessness, you see, it's of the mind, and it's with that type of mind, it's very difficult to cope with situations. You have to develop your calmness, and also you're repenting something, repenting. Something happened, you're still regretting. The person has died and you're still regretting. Or this has happened. Or this. So that regret, repentance of not being done, the worry that you have not been able to do something. These are things in your mental faculties, the mental development, it hinders you. And finally, there is another thing that really makes you a person changes, it's the sensual pleasures. It's not sexual, sensual pleasures. Sensual. And that means your five senses, your keenness, your eagerness to always please your senses. That's an interest. If you want to see something always beautiful, as school children, if you want to go to cinema or if you want to look at the TV every time, control. If you have your mobile and you always have to control, you want to see and everything. Hear something, the five senses are there. Your satisfaction, trying to help satisfy those. And those are also hindrances. You may wonder what these are, what I mentioned. These are the final sensual pleasures like the mother. It's because of your sensual pleasures, it leads to hostility. It leads to other laziness, all those things because of your sensual pleasures. And what I mentioned just now, if I tell the Pali word you know, is Nivarana. What I mentioned just now are the Nivarana. There's Kama Chanda, Vyapad, Tinamidda, Uddachako Kucha, and Vichkicha. So when we learn these things as Nivarana, we always think of the Nivarana as something to do, we are not able to achieve Nibbana. It's not so. What the Buddha mentioned, that if you want to develop your mind, these are the things, the qualities, your personal factors that hinders that progress. And then it's extremely important along with that, how your attitudes are conditioned by your own thinking. Now you have a perception. You have a perception of a bhikkhu. this particular person can't even is this and that and that. So you have a perception of a person. You have some kind of sanya, that's called sanya, a perception of anything. Or this government cannot do anything. It's a perception. Or this government can do something. It's a perception. You can both positive and negative. My husband is good, my husband is bad. This is all good, bad, and everything you think of the outside. You have some kind of perception you have. And that perception leads to some kind of thoughts. Your thinking is based on that perception. You have perception, that affects your thinking. And what affects what thinking? Because of that, you have your views on something. So it's a cyclic thing. Because of a view, then it has, again, your perceptions is dependent on your view. And then because of your perception, you have your thoughts, and because of your thoughts, you have your views. So like that, it's something, you know, that's something that you have to understand. How is it that you are conditioned? You have conditioned yourself because of a perception that you have of a person, of a situation, of everything. And then because of that, you have a whole heap of thoughts that come. I will not touching the barge or something. I will have that. And then I would say that then a view comes up. Oh, how can you do this thing? He's this and that. And that is the very reason why the Buddha gave the first place to sampadeta. It's all because of a view. It's a cyclic nature. And because of this cyclic nature, what has happened is we are used to seeing nature as permanent, what is anicca. That's what we are used to think. We are used to thinking nature that is as permanent, what is impermanent. Well, you like to have that. You like to have the impermanent thing as permanent. And then you think your views are all dependent on that. Then you think of the unsatisfactory things as satisfactory. That means, you know, that you please your senses, and after pleasing your senses, you're very satisfied. And that's happiness. That's super. But that won't happen. That won't be there. So it's because that happiness that you have for some time, for a short time, you are definitely you are happy. You're extremely happy. But that you know that it's not the same thing. So generally, life, when you think of, you generally think of the unsatisfactory thing as satisfactory. The unsatisfactory thing is dukkha. So when you think as dukkha, you see as sukha. And also, there is no permanent, there is no self, but we always think of as, although there is no self, we think of it as a self. We are used to that. We are thinking, when you develop your I, mind, these mind, these I there, my body, my this thing, everything. You're conditioned, you're always thinking because of that. You're thinking, your view is that anicca, dukkha and anatta as nicca, sukha and atta. That's what it is. And because of that, you think of what is subha, asubha as subha. It's something that we should always yearn for. And this is what it is. And that's why the Buddha started with sampadeta. Let's take it. If you can change your ditti views, what happens? When you change your view on something, then your thoughts change. And that is why after sammadhi, it becomes samma sankappa. Your thoughts change because of your view. If you have a wrong view, then all your thoughts are wrong. And when you have your thoughts the thoughts are correct, samma, then your actions, your words, everything automatically become samma. Samma vacha, samma kamma, samma achi comes with that. So the important thing is to understand this. And what I mentioned is earlier, the cyclic nature. In Pali, it is called vipalpas, distortions of the mind. So these are the distortions of the mind. We have sanya, the perception. You are distorted. Your mind is distorted. Your perception is distorted. And if you have a wrong perception, a distorted perception, then your thoughts, your chitta, are distorted. And if your chitta, your thoughts are distorted, then your views, your ditti, is distorted. So this is what happens. So the importance of understanding the true nature of things is getting out of it, or to get rid of these distortions of our mind. Vipallas, distortions of the mind. And that's an effort is required. It's not possible. You can listen to it. But the correction has to be done by each one. And the correction has to be done if you want to really lead a happy life. If you don't want, we all want a happy life. And it's because of this type of things, this type of distortions we have, this type of, other characteristics that we cannot cope with situations. So here, what you have to do, each one of you has to do, starting this year. If you want to bring about change, then bring about change in yourself. Try to understand yourself. Try to understand yourself. In your day-to-day life, there are happy moments. There are moments that you are sad. There are moments you are agitated. Your mind is very agitated. There are moments, your moments reflect. Keep some time in the day, in the morning or evening before you sleep. You think of yourself, why is it that I got agitated? Why was it that I blamed someone? Why was it I did it this way? Why was it that I was really happy? What are the root causes? What is it? What happened? Understand yourself. The most important thing is to understand yourself. And without understanding yourself, it is not possible for us to proceed. It is not possible for us to get the best of them. It is not possible, and that's why you have to do that. Untiringly, we have to do that. You have to understand yourself. And when you understand yourself, try to find out what type of person you are. What is the type of person you are? There's certain people are very lustful. We spoke of the Kama Chanda. We always want something, lustful people out there. There are certain people whose characteristic internally, they're hating, they're irritating. They are irritable. The slightest thing irritates and can blurt out. So there's that type of practice there. Then there are the people who are gullible. And then that means you can just fool that person. They're gullible. There are persons who are knowledgeable of things, to whom you like to speak. They know. And there are certain people who are faithful, or they're devotional, and also there's the people who are skeptical, who are doubting. Now, these 5, 6 types may not be of present psychologists in there, but the Buddha as the greatest psychologist. He made these 6 types of persons. The lustful, lobha-charita, lobha, or raga-charita, raga. Raga-charita, there are people who always want something. You may know that. Raga-charita. The irritable are the dosa-charita, dosa, the irritation. Then the gullible pieces are the moha-charita. You can be fooled because you don't know. Then there are people who are knowledgeable, buddhi-charita. And there are people who are, what you call, devotional saddha-charita. They're very saddha. And also there are people who are skeptical of the vitakka-charita. So these are the 6 types of people, type of persons. And if you read the Visuddhimagga, according to your characteristics, there are different types of bhavana, meditation. And that's there. If you want, the thing is you should understand yourself. What am I? Am I a dosa charita? I'm a buddhi charita. I'm a skeptical vitakka charita. I'm this. And accordingly, you have to find your antidote. The antidote. You have to find out. This is my weakness is this. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. And this, my weakness, it's what, you can't just segregate them into 6, but the thing is, the factor that is uppermost, the characteristic that is uppermost, or in person's life. When you think of your past, when you think of your relationships, when you think of everything, what is it? What is mine? And then you can develop yourself. And that's important. That if you need to overcome what hinders, and then if you know it, then it's possible for us to cope with situations, develop through that. And there, I thought and I identified 10 strengths. If you want to cope with situations, you have to develop certain strengths and skills. As I said, skills from the Sotapanna stage up to Arahant, they are sacred. Siksha, they are trainings. You find you become untrained, it's only to become an Arahant. You are trainers, each one of us, the Buddha or servants of the Buddha, we are all training ourselves. And in training ourselves, it's important that we know ourselves. And then whatever it is, what are the strengths that we have to develop? Develop certain strengths. If you develop these strengths, then it's possible for us to cope with situations. It's possible to make a year of crisis, which is this year, people call it year of uncertainties, the year of crisis. You can make the year of change. You can change. Each one, when you bring about change within, it affects your family, it affects your neighborhood, it affects the whole country. Change the mind. If it's a mental view, the ditti that you have, it has to be changed. Once your view is changed and becomes a somewhat correct thinking, then things happen different. So what are these strengths that we have developed? Or do I like to point out, I like to mention about 10 strengths that we have developed. So one is self-confidence. Self-confidence. I would say saddha is a word, but self-confidence is that you have to, you, you, the thing is you may learn how to swim, but if you don't get to the waters, you can't swim. You know how to drive a vehicle, but you have to drive. Then only you have to learn something. So whatever it is, you have to have that confidence and get going. So it's extremely important that you develop to cope with situations. You have developed your self-confidence. And in develop your self-confidence, you have to develop your self-worth also. Self-worth. It is not self-esteem that you don't think, I am better than that person. No, there is no comparison. In this life, there is only one thing where there is no competition, and that is to be good. There is no competition. If anyone wants to be on the path to Nibbana, there is no competition. But on the other hand, if you want to do wrong things, if you want to do anything, there is competition. You want to be a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire, there is competition. There will be hostile persons. You may have to do so many things to get to that position. If you want to be the head of a government, you have to do so many things. The head of a department, those things. That's different. There you have some of these weak positions or weaknesses in you can come up. So be confident that you can follow this path. You can get the best of the Buddhist teaching. So that it's not for you only, that it's something that you will be having. Then the important thing, I would say, is gratitude. Gratitude. The second strength that you have to develop is gratitude. Katam. I have been mentioning this several times. A very, very poor person wanted to become a monk during the time of the Buddha. Wanted to be big. He was, I think, a beggar. And then the Buddha asked this question from the Sangha. Would anyone tell has this person done any good thing? Then Venerable Sariputta said, yes. One day when I was going on Pindapatha, he gave me one ladle full of food, something that he had to get. And then the Buddha said, okay, if that be so, Sariputta, please order it. The important thing is, in this world, when you look at it, so many people have helped you. So many people. If you develop this gratitude, the Buddha showed gratitude with the second week, showed gratitude to the tree, inanimate thing. But here, if you show it, develop your gratitude, then you can't hate anyone. Somebody, someone, someday have helped you. The farmers, they help you get your food. Everybody is helping each other. And then if you develop this sense of gratitude, then your whole attitude changes. And with gratitude, then when you have this self-confidence and with gratitude, then you can develop your restraint. It's extremely important. The third strength that you have is restraint. The restraint. Don't overact it. For any situation will come. Restraint. Your words, your actions, your thoughts. Try to restrain. Try, help yourself, because without restraint, if you use your verbal word, you can, whatever comes out of your mouth, you can't take it back. I say, even when you send an email, when we are distant, it's important that your words, you should use enough your words. It's important, and that's restraint. And then samma vacha, practicing samma vacha in day-to-day life. your actions. Samma kammanta. Those things are restrained in day-to-day life. All of us are on that path if you have developed your restraint. It's not, the path is not different from what you are. The path is with you, within you. And one has to train. So the restraint is, have this. So when you develop your restraint, you'll be so many, the situations change, your circumstances change. Your control, that what you can, things that were beyond your control, especially those which are, as I said, that are both within personal and outside external. Without that, that is because your marital life, your social life, all those will be quite different. You change in the whole situation if you restrain yourself. And then with that, try to develop boundless loving kindness. Boundless loving kindness. That's what they do. Not loving kindness, any kind of boundaries. What the Buddha, Appamadena, that's what the Buddha says. There are the 4 Appamadena, boundless, develop loving kindness. You develop your boundless, another strength, boundless compassion. Appamadena. Appamadena, compassion, is not mere empathy. You have empathized with self, but along with empathy, it should lead to benevolence. You can empathize. I'm very sad, I'm sad. No, but your karuna, if you have real karuna, compassion, it leads to action, your benevolent actions. So boundless compassion and boundless your altruistic joy, helping others, seeing others also doing well. There comes generosity. Your generosity. What you have, you try to give. Whatever you have, whether it's your time or whether it's your knowledge or whether whatever it is, try to give that. It's not yours. What will the Buddha do? The Buddha became enlightened. And there is nothing called Guru Mushti. He did not keep anything for himself. He gave everything. And he was satisfied. He was so happy when Kondanje understood. That piano joy when Kondanje was able to understand the Dhamma. So that's what it is. Each one of us has strengths. Each one of us can give. There is none of us don't think we are poor. A kind word is what you can give. A kind word. So all those things are things that we can develop, a strength that we develop within. And also, not to be perturbed, calmness, equanimity is extremely important. With equanimity, then you know you can face situations. You don't become, agitated. It's calmness, can keep it. You can face situations. And that's what has to be developed. These are inner strengths. So the inner strengths, and ultimately, if you want to develop these strengths, you have to have developed your mindfulness. You have to have your sati. Your mindfulness is extremely important. And along with that, you should have energy, virya. That's where samma sati and samma virya comes in. When you're on this path, and when you want to develop yourself, when you want to develop for your own happiness, it's not for anyone else's happiness. It's for your own happiness, for developing your ability to cope with situations. When you develop your skills that are required. And for that, you need mindfulness. You develop your mindfulness every moment, every moment to moment. everything sati. And along with that, you should have your energy. Because when you, through mindfulness, if you're gone astray, to get back to what you want to do, it is energy or virya vaya is required. Sometimes, it happens because we are not fully developed. We may go astray. We may be meditating, or we may, but our minds go, not in one place. But we have to bring it back. And you have to have this self-confidence and to do that. So that kind of, all that's your sati and virya are important. And finally, is patience. Patience, have patience. You want everything overnight. I always say it's like instant coffee. We can't have that type of instant coffee. It's a long journey. You have your traits are there. Your different types of your perceptions, your thoughts, your views on things. And as human beings, we have our views on many things. And sometimes our views, they hinder us. They don't allow us to see the truth. And that's what's happening. That's why we are still not Sodapana, or we are not Sapadagami or Anagami. It's because we cling on to that, our views. We like those. And that's why we have tanha, our tanha. Like to live again. May this person be my mother every time, next birth itself. May this person, till I attain Nibbana, the thing is all that type of yearning, bhava, and also sometimes vibhava tanha, kama tanha, all those things are sometimes within. So this is something that we have to do. And for that, we need patience. Patience with, not with outside, patience with oneself. And that's why the Buddha said, Khanti Paramang Tapo Titikka. Patience is the supreme, supreme. Tapasya, development is extremely, you have to have that patience. Patience with yourself. You want to go on this path. If you want to benefit from the Buddha's teaching, in a time of crisis, you can make this not a year of crisis, you can make it a year of change. And that's my message for all of you this year. Bring about this change and make this your year of change. And that's why, or which the Buddha said, Appamadena sampadeta. Untie. Strive on untie. And when you strive on untiring, you achieve. And any of all the outside, external things, you can manage, you can cope with all these situations. And final word I would mention that we, servants of the Buddha, we are extremely fortunate human beings. Why are we fortunate? We are born as humans. We are not animals. We may have, animal instincts will be there. Sometimes your animal instincts will become more important than your human nature. We are humans. So that's something that we have. Not only are we humans, we are living at a time when there is the dispensation of the Buddha. Also, Buddhotpada, dispensation of Buddha is prepared. So we are fortunate. There could be people in samsara where the dispensation is not there. So that means they are always dark, but the light is there. The light at the end of the tunnel, there is there. So dispensation. And then another thing, we in Sri Lanka, we are living in a Buddhist country. We see the symbols, everything of Buddhism. So many, 10,000 viharas, so many portraits, everywhere I see symbols are there to make us mindful of situation. You see, it should be, we are happy. In certain countries, these symbols are not there. We are born in a country where the Buddhist symbols are there for us to be watchful, to be mindful, always bring us our minds back. And finally, we are Buddhists. It's the Buddhist is something by birth we have become Buddhists. It's important. There are so many, only 350 million people in this, of the 7 billion people are called Buddhists. Some say 5 million, 500 million. But it's about less than about 10%. So but we are fortunate. That means from birth we have our children, our mothers, our parents have all taught us, when we go to Dhamma school, everything, we have that practice. So we are very fortunate. And if you are fortunate, if we don't make the best of this time, death could come at any time. Death could come. Any one of us, we don't know. I don't know whether I could live from next year, 2021, I was here, 2022, I don't know that, 2023, we don't know. So that's why we should untie, strive and plan. Every moment is important. Maybe you all attain it. Yes, I think all of us, we have proved much merit, and it's important that we share this merit with our departed. And as was mentioned, Alec Robertson, it's 20 years earlier, he passed away. And we have to think of all those who have done so much for this organization, and also to the entire world, for ourselves, our parents, and everyone. Let us now share the merit with them. Idang me jati hotu sukhita hotu jateo. Idang me jati hotu sukhita hotu jateo. Idang me jati hotu sukhita hotu jateo. And also let us share the merit with the Devas, and let the Devas protect us, protect this country, and protect our sasana. Ettavata chamdehi samvatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata chamdehi samvatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata chandehi samvatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Abhivadana silissa Changvada Pachayino Chattaro Dhamma Vajjanti Ayuvanno Sukham Balam Ayurarokya Sampatti Sagra Sampatti Mevacha Atho Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samicchatu.